Dr. Warren Vander Hill interviewing Dr. Paul Errington, Emeritus Professor of Physics and Astronomy for the Ball State History Project. Paul, I'd like to begin by asking you if you would tell me a little bit about your educational background before you came to Ball State.
Undergraduate degree was from West Virginia University in electrical engineering.
Okay.
My graduate work then was also at West Virginia University on a National Defense Scholarship for a few years, and then as a typical grad student for a few years, and a PhD in physics then from West Virginia University in neutron physics or nuclear physics.
I want to comment on the NDEA for the person reading this National Defense Education Act Fellowship, because I also went to graduate school on one of those. And so I guess we're part of a generation of people where the government put a lot of money in terms of investment in us getting graduate degrees. Because when I reflect back on that, I think I didn't pay anything to get a master's degree and a PhD, and I assume it was probably the same in your case.
Well, in physics, rarely does anybody pay their own way anyway. It's you either have a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship or some kind of scholarship.
Yeah. But you also had money for dependents and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. See, my first year was $2,000 was the award.
Right.
I felt like I was really living high.
Yeah, we did too. Why did you come to Ball State?
Well, I had been teaching at Bethany College in West Virginia, and then I was at U.S. Steel Research Lab, and I had a Fulbright lectureship in Peru. And while I was at Catholic University in Peru, Malcolm Holtz, who is currently the chairman of the Department of Physics at that time here at Ball State, happened to be coming through on I don't know if that was a Friends program or what he was coming through with, but I met him at Catholic University, and he was looking for somebody, actually. He happened to be looking for somebody to take the place of Ed Craig, who would be on sabbatical for the spring quarter of the 69-70 academic year. And since I would be going back in January to the U.S. and did not have a job at that particular time, I said, sure, I'd be happy to teach there for a quarter. Well, I taught that quarter, and then I had another assistantship with AID in Peru for the summer, for 3 months of the summer, and I still didn't have a job lined up for the fall, and so Malcolm offered me I think it was a full-time position here somehow that appeared, and so I had a full-time tenure-track position that fall.
What were your expectations of teaching at what was by that time, then in the late 60s, early 70s, Ball State University, when you came here? What kind of academic life do you think this was going to be?
I really didn't know that much about Ball State, but Bethany College was a two-person department. I could have gone back there, but I wanted to go to a little larger school. And I figured Ball State would be a great central location so that I'd be there maybe a year or two and look around and apply for a job. But unfortunately, the job market for physicists was pretty close to zero, and I was fortunate enough that they seemed to like me well enough at Ball State to keep on. And I enjoyed it here, too.
But when you came, though, and this is a point I want to make with all the people that are part of this study, when you came to Muncie, was it your intention to stay at Ball State?
No, not really. My wife is from northern Indiana, so it was kind of handy for that. We met at Bethany College, and she did not like the isolation of the country, and I didn't like the small department so much. So it was a nice Ball State was a nice central location that was close to her parents, not too far from mine, and a good place to kind of be to look around for a job.
Like most of us.
But we both liked it here.
Well, let me go on that point a little bit. I mean, as you reflect back on a long and wonderful career at Ball State, why did you stay? What are some of the major reasons why, at some point in your life, you had to make a decision? Well, this is going to be the place where I'm going to spend my entire academic career.
Well, the people in the department, for one thing, it was a very congenial department. I was allowed to introduce a new course in microprocessors and teach some modern electronics, which was an interest of mine. And that probably was the most important reason, I guess. It's just a good department. We've always gotten along with each other in the department.
Were there points along the way, I guess particularly when one gets to middle age, when you gave some serious thought to looking at some other possibilities?
Oh, not seriously.
So you would say that with the makeup of the department, the colleague relationships, things like that, this seemed to be a place where it was as good an academic home as any?
Yes, because I enjoyed the, my emphasis has always been more on teaching.
Right.
And I like that more than a research atmosphere. So I never had any, I'd like to have had a nice mountain somewhere right here in the middle of town, but that's not my only complaint with the area is the lack of terrain.
Yeah, the flatness of it. Yeah. As you look back on your career, in what ways would you say that Ball State changed while you were a member of the faculty?
Well, certainly the change from quarter to semester was a big academic change in my opinion. At the time I was pretty much on the fence. I was probably among those that said, well, sure, I'd rather be in semesters, but let's wait till I'm gone to do it. Because the change was kind of painful, but I do like the semester system better. But the quarter system had its points also. So that's been a big change, and I think when we went from quarter system to semester system, that was kind of the big change to going from the teacher's college image to the university image. That was a good time to kind of make a break from that image. I think it was also a time when the semester system, I don't think, particularly summer school, was not as friendly toward teacher education programs.
Right.
And so that was a big shift there. I don't hear as many people talking now to us out at the college. That used to be when you talk to somebody that was from Muncie, they would always speak of being out at the college.
Or our college. Yeah.
And that being way out of town at the time.
How about the personnel changes that affected everyone's lives here in the early 80s, really during the 4 years that Jim Cook was provost? And when you think of the fact that people like us came to a university that had a fixed salary schedule, had pretty much lockstep tenure, promotion, and things like that. And during that period in the 80s, when Cook was here, that all got thrown out in favor of a much different kind of assessment process for progress toward tenure, merit pay, promotion to associate, full professor.
Well, certainly the rules change, but I think most of us looked at it and kind of realized we needed somebody to kick us in the rear to get us out of our lethargic state and moving a little bit. So I think there's a lot of us resented it maybe, but down deep I think we pretty much says, well, yeah, it's really time to come of age and get moving on this.
Okay. So I mean, as you look back on that, do you view those significant changes in the lives of faculty as positive or negative when they occurred in the 80s?
To look back, they were positive.
Okay.
Now at the time, the longer Jim Cook is away from here, the more I like him. Not the fact that he's gone, it's just I think he really did some good.
Yeah, okay. But at the time it didn't seem that way.
Well, no, he was kind of abrupt.
Yeah, right, kind of tough, okay. Who are some of the people who have had an impact on you during your years as a faculty member?
Well, I can't think of any one in specific person that you learn from everybody. You learn little tricks in doing this and that from all your colleagues. Pay attention anyway. But I can't think of any particular one mentor that I could.
Okay. I've always seen your department as a department where people, by and large, really got along pretty well, where there seemed to be a sense of camaraderie about the place of physics and astronomy on this campus. I mean, is that a fair assessment as you look back on it?
Yeah. See, ours was originally the Department of Physics, and then Malcolm Holtz introduced the Astronomy 100 class a number of years back, and that really has been a very popular course. So we now have 3 full-time astronomers on the staff. Whereas before we pretty much had the planetarium director, which was Newton Sprague at the time, as the only astronomer around. And so it's changed quite a bit. At one time, I thought I was going to have to teach astronomy. Got all ready for it. Fortunately for me and the students, I didn't have to teach it.
Okay.
But generally, we try to share the chores of the Astro 100s, the Physics
Right.
100s.
Yeah, the bread and butter course.
Yeah. Nobody in the department feels that they're stuck doing a certain job. And I think we all realize that you've got to, somebody wants to teach a grad course, that you got to make room for them.
Tell me a little bit about your areas of involvement in the community. What kind of, I mean, I know your wife's been very involved in things in the community, but when you've had time away from your faculty responsibilities to be involved in the community, what are some of the areas that have been of most interest to you?
Well, not a whole lot, actually. Probably more since I've retired than before, but years ago I was working on a project designing speaking devices for handicapped kids. I've always volunteered for various things like the Endurathon,
Right.
and that kind of stuff, but as far as active involvement in the community, I really have not been very active.
But now in your retirement, like a lot of us, you have more time, and so now you're getting more involved,
Yep.
Making more contributions. What's your perspective on the role of the faculty in the life of a university like Ball State? Do you think that's changed, or how do you see that looking back now from a retired position?
Well, I kind of visualize the faculty's role has decreased over the years. We have more professional administrators and fewer academic administrators. People seem to be less faculty-oriented in decisions that are made, and more business-oriented toward decisions made for the university are not necessarily made along academic means anymore.
Yeah, and you don't think that was true when you first came here?
Not as much. I mean, it's always been that way somewhat, but I see the administration is more made up of professional administrators now than it was in the old days. In the old days, it seems like you came up through academic ranks and somehow would move in to do a job whether you wanted to do it or not necessarily.
Right, true.
And whereas now it's people are hired for particular administrative jobs. And there seems to be a lot more administration.
Yeah.
All deans have 2 assistants practically.
Right.
Office full of secretaries. There are various offices for this and that that weren't around before. That supposedly are, say, more service for the students or more service for somebody. I'm not sure who.
In the last years of your career, when the university attempted to make some changes in the standards for admission of the students, could you notice that at all in your actual faculty life?
Dr. Waters has done an excellent job on that. I think before that it was come August, if we needed some students, you'd open the floodgates and let anybody in. I think that's not true anymore, and it's been quite refreshing as far as I'm concerned to see the higher standard students. The ones that you know aren't going to make it, you shouldn't let in, and we don't anymore, I don't think.
Well, I mean, consider that we came to an institution that was basically an open-door institution as far as having no real admission standards.
Yeah.
I mean, we served a lot of the function of a community college as far as just letting kids in the sense of, why don't you come to Ball State and try it out and see if you like it or not.
Well, I'm not sure in those days that there were more opportunities for students for jobs in let's say trying to think of the old shop course.
Oh yeah,
not everybody wanted to go to college. Now it's kind of everybody's got to go to college. And it's probably everybody shouldn't go to college.
Right. Yeah, there's more emphasis on just trying to get everybody into some part.
Yeah.
Thus, you have a community college of Indiana and you push a lot of kids.
It used to be if you had a degree, a high school degree in Indiana, you were allowed to go to Ball State pretty much, or Indiana State. I don't even know if Purdue and IU, they probably did have academic standards then, or some way to limit enrollment. And then I always got the feeling that we, Ball State and Indiana State, would take what's left.
Yeah. Which has certainly not been the case in the last 6 or 7
No,
years.
no. In fact, I have no data whatsoever, but my personal feeling is that the tightening up of academic standards has been the prime reason that the retention has gotten.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's definitely true. Yeah. In the years that you've been here, how do you view the relationship between what's called town and gown, the community and the university?
Most of town has been very little relationship whatsoever. I think there's kind of a group of town people, and usually it's the ones who are a little more financially able to give to university or whatever, but I think there's a pretty good relationship between university and town for that group. But I think as a general rule between the university and the town, there's pretty much no relationship whatsoever. It's more probably along an economic barrier between the two.
And you see that as being pretty consistent in the years that you've been here?
Yeah.
Do you think it's changed much at all with this big emphasis on economic development in the community over the past several years?
I don't think it's changed any.
I mean, I've often made the comment that there are a very large number of faculty who conduct their daily lives at Ball State as if the town doesn't exist.
I think there's a lot of the town people who operate their lives as if the university doesn't exist. There's no connection between the two.
Yeah.
I don't see most of Indiana or most of Muncie's people looking at the schedule and say, oh, there's a great lecture going on over on campus
Right.
tonight, I'll go.
Yeah.
For one thing, it's very difficult to get over here and park and find
I
anything.
knew you were going to mention parking. Yeah.
And there's no public transportation to get you around town very easily, certainly not in the evenings. So, like I say, I think there's a group of people in town that attend things at Ball State, but usually they probably live pretty close. And most of the town, pretty much, they don't come here, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that really ought to attract them and that people don't take advantage of.
I'm not sure even if we had things like downtown at the Arts Center or a convention center, it would make any difference.
And one of the things I know that you've been very interested in during your time at Ball State is faculty governance. And I know there's now, or in recent years, there's been an attempt, I don't think it's gotten to the Board of Trustees yet as we speak in September of 2004. But do you think that there really ought to be, at this point in Ball State's history, much more of an active role of the faculty, such as in a faculty senate or something like that, that would provide a much better forum for faculty perspective, faculty viewpoints?
Well, yes, I do think there is, but the problem with it is that if you have the faculty, whatever kind of a group you have as an advisory group, if nobody takes their advice, it's really a kind of a waste of time. This is not something I think that's new. I seem to remember that probably 20 years ago when I was in the Senate, I made a motion one time to eliminate the Senate. I was ruled out of order. I thought it was pretty much a waste then. I think it's pretty much a waste now.
Oh, okay. Well, I think of that because I recall when I got back more on the faculty a couple of years ago that a number of people came to see me and said, you know, what we really need to have at Ball State is a faculty voice, and we haven't really had that because, as you know, shortly after you came here, when Ball State became a university, they had a university senate. And now you've got people, you know, here we are in a new century, who think that the real answer to having a better faculty voice is to have a faculty senate. And given your involvement in a lot of governance things over the years, I just wondered if you thought that was a step in the right direction or not.
Well, at least it would be a voice from the faculty, whereas before it was watered down by student votes, administration
right.
votes. So it really wasn't a clear voice from the faculty, and I was involved in AAUP for a number of years.
I know, yeah.
And that, again, the only thing you can get anybody interested in there is if it's a salary issue or if it's somebody gets fired or something like
Right.
that. Other than that, nobody's interested in university governance.
What do you see as as you are, of course, now leaving the Department of Physics and Astronomy, as the future of that quite important department in a university setting?
Well, I think obviously Ball State's never going to have an engineering school, and the push I see is that you have to make yourself somehow valuable to society, and pure physics as such has kind of in a lag right now, and so I see it's going more applied, and so it's kind of an applied physics in the nanostructure areas.
Right.
So I see in order to move ahead that we kind of need to go in that direction, at least try to see if we can do something as far as economic development in the area is concerned. And I think we've got a couple of good guys over there now. That,
especially in the nano area?
Yeah, we've got a theoretical group, and then we've got two people in. Feng Jin is in thermionic emission.
Right.
Basically, you make a more efficient light bulb. may not sound like much, but if you can use carbon nanotubes and make a light bulb more efficient, you can save a lot of energy.
Yeah, right.
And then Ranjit Vijayasinghe is coming in. He's in medical physics.
Was he just new this year?
Yeah, he's new this year. So there are two that'll get a good experimental program going. That's kind of,
And that's taken the department in a little bit different direction.
Yeah. People like myself who are experimentalists, our programs just kind of died out. Nuclear physics is not very interesting to anybody anymore. There's not much application for it. And so I kind of see it as a fresh kind of direction now that we're going with some experimentals.
Well, that's good. Sounds good. Well, that's all the questions that I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any reflections for posterity when somebody comes to read this in 2050? They'll have the wisdom of Professor Paul Errington.
Now, if they want some evidence on global warming,
Yeah.
I can remember the first 10 years or so that I was here, we used to ice skate on the duck pond all the time. The thing rarely freezes anymore.
That's right. I can remember going out there with a hockey stick
Yep.
and a hockey puck
Yep.
when I first came here. That's exactly right.
We used to shovel it off so my kids could skate there, and I
Exactly so.
a few times even went up there at noon from the locker room and pushed a puck around the place.
Yeah, that's right.
But it just doesn't freeze anymore.
No, I know. That's right. That is the good local evidence for that. Anything else? Well, I really appreciate you doing this. As I said, this will become part of the History Project archive, so many years from now, somebody will go plowing through this stuff and realize that there were some people here in September 2004 who took the time to comment a little bit on what the university was like from the 1960s until retirement in 2004. So I thank you very much. Well, go ahead.
You're talking about student
Yeah.
senate. We used to have some great oratory in the Senate.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't hear that anymore.
We don't. You don't have that anymore. No, that's exactly right. In fact, the two of us could go down the list of great names like Lee Neiman, Dave Scruton,
Whitney Gordon.
Whitney Gordon.
Would always have a few
Yeah.
things to say.
Yeah,
But
Everett Farrell. I mean, I can think of the Senate, to me, was more like the House of Commons during question time or something like that. And now I can't recall having heard a good speech in the Senate in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Okay.
So the faculty, I think, is less
Yeah, right. Yeah.
oratorical now.
Oratorically skilled. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.